All right. Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, April 4th, 2022, and I'm excited tonight to be joined by a special guest. It's Carmen Studer, the host of Let Me Ask My Mom podcast, life coach, larger than life Twitter personality, and all around just someone who seems very interesting to me. So, Carmen, thank you for joining Jackman Radio tonight.
Thank you. Are you going to do any Donald Trump for me?
Carmen, I was going to maybe wait till the end, but I got to tell you, you talking about me it made me come out early, okay? I'm here early, quite frankly, and I was just taking a hot tub with Putin and we were talking about some things. I'm back channeling with the Kremlin right now, okay? Because we know, Carmen, Brandon's not going to get it done. He's a corpse that shits his pants daily. He's not going to get it done, okay? So we need Trump back in there to get it done.
I'm going to start out crying.
Crying from laughter is encouraged in clown world. We need that, you know. Yeah. So I was saying before we went live, Carmen. Obviously, we have never met before, so this is really cool to meet you virtually, like this over the Jackman Radio stream and the interwebs, the internet, as George W. Bush would say. And you first came on my radar, and I think we both first came on each other's radar. You had Maria Farmer on your show, and then I had her on my show, and I think she mentioned Jackman Radio on your show, and someone tagged me in something. I'm like, oh, whose show is Maria doing? And I saw your channel, and I was like really interested. So I just want to know a little bit about your background and how you got into podcasting and your YouTube channel, and like who were your early influences that led you down that path.
Yeah, it's so funny because I had no intention ever of being public, ever. I was even previously, I spent some time in production, film production, and people were always trying to get me in front of the camera, and I just was not interested. I live like someone famous without having to deal with the baggage. That's the way to do it. And so it just was one of those things that we've gotten to a place in time where standing in your own power and authority makes you stand out. And I had gotten to where I had vibed so high that I just started meeting some of these incredible people on YouTube. And one of them was Michael Jaco. And Michael Jaco asked me to come and join him on the show. After I told him, I was like, hey, I'd love to give a testimonial because I loved working with you. It was amazing. Let me know. I'll just put it on your website or whatever. He's like, why don't you just come on the show? Nice. So then the two of us started doing something weekly. And next thing you know, he's helping boost my daughter and I's little channel, Let Me Ask My Mom. And then I had all these followers on my channel that I use. It was just my name. And people just kept following. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. So I decided reluctantly to start the Wilderness Church because I always felt left out of the church world. I always felt like a misfit in the church world. And I thought it'd be fun to have people come in and talk about, their version of what God is. And it just kind of grew from there. And next thing you know, I'm working with all these girls and people have sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse and helping people raise money and just different things like that. So it's kind of how I ended up with a YouTube channel.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. And I really I laud that and appreciate about you. You're not afraid to go hard in the paint with those controversial topics that so-called normies or normal people who aren't initiated to this level of knowledge or understanding think it only happens in movies and it's not real. They look at you with that 12-mile stare, like, what are you talking about? And for me, my very early red pills, my dad had David Icke's books on his nightstand when I was a kid, and you're always curious what your father's reading. And I remember being a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid picking up David Icke's book, and The Truth Shall Set You Free, and reading through that, trying to make sense of some of it. And obviously, as a 12-year-old, you don't know what that stuff's all about. But I kind of grew up in an environment, with my dad and then my uncles who were all very, truth seekers and oriented in alternative media and alternative views about historical events that were always lied to about our whole lives. So whether it was the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, the wars, the war machine, the media. So as at a young age, my brother Mike and I were exposed to this other way of thinking and this empowerment to cut through bullshit and kind of see things for how they really were. So I kind of get that sense you've had that in your background for a while.
It's funny. I think I've always been a truth seeker, and mine came about in a different way than yours did. I think you're quite lucky, because as you're awakening to all this stuff, it is shocking. But
Yes.
so for me, my mom got cancer when I was 14 years old, and I watched her beautiful blue veins turn into brown wires, and she died. And I thought, how can that be good for you? How can that help? It just didn't intuitively make sense to me. And so I've been very suspicious of the healthcare industry. And for some reason, I never extrapolated it over into law and politics and education until then my kids were older. And then I got into the whole education piece. So I've just kind of slowly been introduced to each mountain as we come. And because of, stupid 19,
Yeah.
that just ripped the rest of it off, just ripped it off, because my ex and I owned an environmental business. We cleared up hazardous waste sites all over the world, really. And I knew that there was toxic particulates, that we had to have respirators and decontamination stations and all this stuff. And I was like, this isn't making sense. If there's something smaller than a toxic particulate and we're just going to put a mask on, and we would be, in huge trouble for health and safety in our business. And so that's what kicked off all the questions. And now, of course, I know who David Icke is, and all the players, because I'm a researcher and I study probably 2 to 5 hours a day.
Right. You're just seeking out knowledge, and I get the impression, obviously, if yeah, you know about that stuff, it's not through like really a partisan lens. I mean, I shed the partisan bullshit probably end of high school, early college. The last time I really bought into it or thought there was a difference between blue and red team was the '04 election. It was the first election I was old enough to participate and vote. And I'm originally from Massachusetts. I was born there, and I lived in the first 10 years of my life there. So I remember John Kerry being my senator and hearing about him, and thinking he was probably a decent guy. He's from the same part of the country I am. He's Irish, he's Catholic, all that stuff, kind of like the mold of a Kennedy.
Right.
Really a Kennedy wannabe. Um, but so I thought, I absolutely hated the neocons and the Iraq War and everything that the Bush administration and Dick Cheney stood for. So I believed that by supporting John Kerry and volunteering on his campaign here in New Hampshire, that it was going to make a difference and we could get him elected and change things. And
Yes.
then lo and behold, he didn't win the election, or the selection, as I call them. And you do a little research into it, and John Kerry and George W. Bush are cousins. They're both skull and bones, and they're just both basically both bagmen and henchmen for the New World Order or the global elite or the cartel, whatever you want to call them. So
Born in
I
Babylon.
yeah, yeah, Babylon, exactly.
We got to keep going back here.
Very true. And so that's kind of how my approach to politics has been. And another massive red pill was learning about Ron Paul my first couple years of college. And I had no idea what libertarianism was. I didn't know who this old kind of cantankerous squeaky congressman from Texas. I had no idea who he was. I saw all these signs start popping up here in New Hampshire ahead of the '08 primary. One of them says Google Ron Paul, or who is Ron Paul. So I was like, who the hell is Ron Paul? I'm kind of inclined to maybe trust a guy who has two first names, you know?
Right.
So I got into Ron Paul and became a very big supporter of his, and worked on his 2012 campaign here in New Hampshire, and met a lot of really cool people who I'm still in touch with to this day. So when people ask where I am politically, I am kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I'm an independent. I don't really like parties. And I tell people I'm an independent with a lot of libertarian inclinations. So where do you think of yourself in that regard?
I would probably say, because I used to be very interested in the National Council for Policy, and was more, you know, conservative leaning, but I always, freedom is more at my core than love. I mean, and I'm a big lover, but freedom is so important to
Freedom
me.
is love.
It is. I agree with you. I agree with you. And so for me, same thing. As you as the veil starts coming off more and more, you understand that these things are in like these pyramid type structures that one of the things that one of the best deliverance people I have ever heard had said is God is omnipresent, but Satan is organized. And I absolutely love that statement because it's true. He might not be omnipresent, but he's put in place a very strategic, very organized system that we are all a part of, this matrix. And until you learn to get out of it, and you absolutely can, but it does feel real until you do the work. And so now I would say independent, definitely more libertarian like you. Definitely believe in guns, believe in freedom, believe in people making their own choices and also paying their own consequences. And that's one
Mm.
reason I think a lot of people aren't that way. They want to protect other people, which is very nice of them. Um, but I do want to share something that I think is really important because it was a lesson that I learned during the primaries because I really didn't want Abbott back. Was trying to talk to people about getting him out and trying to get some other options in there. One of the things I realized is, and this is my own confession first before I start accusing, is you go to the primaries and you see all these names and you might know one or two and you don't know them that well. I would challenge people to know every single person on a ballot, literally know them, know something about them, have seen not only their ads, but some of the work they've done, advertisements or things that they have, participated in, charities they're involved with, especially for the more important ones. I just think that you can't walk in and not know people's names. It's just my personal opinion. I just thought I'd share that.
I'm with you 110% on that, and I always harken back to what my buddy, one of my favorites, Jesse Ventura, says: "Follow the money, Carmen. Follow the money.
Yep.
Who's paying them? Whose payroll are they on? It's all like wrestling." And Ventura always says politicians should be made to wear NASCAR jackets with all their sponsors on them. And I couldn't, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Do some homework into these people,
Yes.
and they have it that way. They want them to just be these kind of not really standout names on a ballot, and you just go in and usually it's team sport. I'll check one for my team or not do any research or any homework. And then that's why every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years, they just keep getting away with the shit that they're getting away with because they're counting on the average American to be in the dark, to be so beaten down after the 40-hour work week, and then fulfilling other obligations, whether it's family, your job, everything else you can think of that we do in our lives. And I don't have children. I'm not married, so I do have outside of my 40-hour week grind day job. I have a lot of time to research this stuff, and I have a lot of time to look into shit and read a lot and research. And I don't take for granted that a lot of my friends just they don't have that time because they got children, they're married, they got in-laws, they got to go to PTA meetings, all this stuff that I don't have to do. So, part of the reason I do my show is my brother and I like to synthesize a lot of that information and material and try and put it into like an hour or an hour and a half
Good.
digestible podcasts, much like what you do. So, I can appreciate I feel the same way. People need to do more homework, and our vote. I'd like to say our vote is precious. Depending on the day of the week, I go
Another
back and forth on how I feel about voting. Like, it's important. We should do it. The hell with it. I agree with Carlin. It's not worth anything. So
yeah.
it's just about staying informed and keeping up on what the elite class are up to and what they do because they just get away with stuff every day.
And since Maria is not here, I will say they're not the elite class, they're the pedo class.
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, they're the
He has trained
they're
me
the
and trained me well.
they're the pedophile mafia.
Yes.
They're the pro war, pro surveillance, pro pedophile, satanic Luciferian monsters, reptiles, whatever you want to call them. David Icke talks about reptiles and reptilians, and that that will turn a lot of people off from David Icke. But if they haven't really read any of his stuff or listened to his talks, and that's just what they're going off of, they're going to kind of miss the point of what he's talking about.
Absolutely. And just like you said, if people don't have the time to research it, they really don't earn the right, in my opinion, to even criticize, because it is a process. It is an absolute process. And the one of my guests, Jessie Zabotar, she's on,
Hmm.
a couple times a month, and she has been through hell, literally. And she's been sharing her story for probably 2 years now, and she says she's just now getting to an audience that she's trained up and told enough information that she can now start divulging some of the real stuff, right? Because if you come out with what she's coming out with now, a year ago, people would literally turn her off. And so she has to, not only did she have to go through all the crap she had to go through as a kid, she now has to go through training all of us to be able to even hear about what's going on out there on every level, from military to CIA to police to CPS to, churches, the whole nine yards.
Right. Yeah. And, growing up in the Northeast here, I grew up in the shadow of the Catholic Church in the Boston Archdiocese. And both my parents grew up in Catholic backgrounds. They both went to, well, my dad had to go to a Catholic school for a while. My mom was in a Catholic orphanage in Boston for a year when she was a young girl. She lost both her parents by the time she was 10. So I grew up with a real distrust of that kind of institution, and any institution that has that kind of power and sway over people's finance, over people's families, over how they think,
Bravo.
over everything like that. So harkening back to my dad, he always, he said, "You guys can have religion if you want religion. You can do whatever you want, but I am not forcing you to go to a church, especially a Catholic church, knowing what I know about it." And he grew up in Dorchester, inner city Boston, and friends of his and people he knew in the neighborhood were, abused by priests, and it was just like an open secret. It
Yeah.
was everyone knew, but
The
everyone was
casting couch. Oh,
exactly, everyone knew, but people were afraid to be out about it and do anything about it, and they felt powerless. Um, so I always tip my hat to my dad for keeping me, not shielding me, protecting me, doing what a father does, and knowing in his heart and in his gut that I'm not leaving my children alone with these people, knowing what I knew and what I've grown up to see.
good for
And
him.
you said you lost your mother to cancer. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was 14 when she was diagnosed, but 24 when she died.
Yeah. So I lost my father to brain cancer in 2017, and it was a 5 month process from the diagnosis to his death. So it's it sucks.
No
You know.
fun. Not to mention that, there's probably been thousands of cures that have been suppressed, in my opinion. I know people who have survived from starving it.
Yeah, yeah. I can't say that I believe they don't have certain cures or even better remedies, and that they're just sitting on or they're not letting
Mhm.
out, because watching what my dad went through with radiation and chemo and everything, and how expensive all that is, and how much of a fucking racket all of it is, and what they put you through. I mean, it's a moneymaker. I know it's sick to say that, and a lot of people have a tough time accepting that, but
Yeah.
our healthcare industry in this country is another racket, and we are just inventory for that. We're just consumers of it. We're just, they see dollar signs. They don't see a human being that we should help and take care of.
Yeah, and to be honest, I have a lot of compassion for doctors because um, I understand that they're hazed and they are put through initiations and they are treated horribly in medical school. And there's weird things that go on when, they're the cadavers, and there's um inappropriate expectations, like you have to work 3 days in a row. Well, why can't everybody just work one day? Same
Mm.
amount of coverage. Why are you keeping people exhausted and wearing them down? And I really believe that it's because they want to have that control. So it's very much like school. I homeschool my children because I saw that there was a lot of stuff even back then. My son's 29 and my daughter's 25. So we're talking, 10, 15 years ago, but still it's shifted even into high gear now. used to be, I would tell people, I think it's a choice. You can supplement your kid with really good morals and all of the life skills that you need. Now, I wouldn't have a kid in a public school for anything. No way.
Yeah, the system is rot. It's rotten. I mean, I know people personally who left the teaching profession, especially in the last couple of years, with what I call the flu world order. How horrible it's gotten. But I can't take credit for that. My uncle dropped that
Well,
one on me very very early on. There's a Chinese restaurant down in Mass that we like to go to, and this was like April after everything started with Stupid 19. I'm going to take that too. I never heard that one either. I like
I
that
got
one
that from
better.
Hotep Jesus. I don't know if you know who that is on
Oh,
Twitter.
he's great. I'm familiar with him. So I get to the restaurant and I hadn't seen my uncle since everything started. And he's one of my uncles who kind of got me into researching stuff and looking at the world a different way. And he
What
just
a
looks at me.
blessing.
Yeah, it is. He just looks at me and he goes, "How about this flu world order?" And I'm like, "I like that. I'm
You
taking
combine
that."
it all into one. That it works for me.
Yeah,
He's dead on. And
yeah.
it is, that's why I really like, I don't know if you have ever seen Texas Slim. He does the Beef Initiative, and I've had him on my channel a couple of times, and you should talk to him. He's been talked about on Joe Rogan's show. He's been talked about on Glenn Beck. He's been talked about on Adam Curry's show. And I absolutely love what he's doing. He's trying to bring the harvest table, or that small town, awareness to food. He calls it food intelligence. And he's launching his very first convention, so to speak, down in Kerrville, April 23rd, if anybody wants to get involved. He's talking to ranchers, he's shaking their hands, he's figuring out ways to get people like top grade meats. He's going to figure out how to do his own certification. He's literally building something new, because all of the food is, all of the meat in particular is processed through maybe 6 different processors. And all of them are heavily invested in all this synthetic food that's coming out. And so it's really frightening, but it doesn't need to be, because we are empowered. And that's my thing is, I think people just trust me. And I know that I'm looking for, I just have a trust platform. I'm not getting shekels for anything. I'm just being me and sharing what I know and what's I've found is really good. And I think that people resonate with truth at a deep level. They'll even be like, "That's so way out there," but I don't know. I'm going to keep listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my brother always says the cream rises to the top, and if you are being truthful about things, people will eventually arrive at what you're saying, and
Yes,
they'll understand it to be reality, and to know that you actually are well intentioned and pure about what you're doing. And
absolutely.
yeah, I'm not doing this to get rich. I mean, I would like to do it full time. I have a Patreon account. I just tell people, if you want to support me, $5 a month, like the price of a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't want to become a million. I mean, I'm not looking to become a millionaire. But if I could do it full time, I would be able to dedicate even more time to research. Because there's a lot of work going into having a show. People think you just willy nilly fire up a camera and there's no prep. You just put it on and you're good to go. There's hours and hours behind the scenes that about that you're doing when you're doing your own show.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I don't have anything daily. Because,
Oh,
if I get on mine like twice a week, it's a big deal. But it is really fun though. And I love the people. I love the ideas that you get from the subscribers. They really are a part of the team. It's just awesome.
right.
People are so smart and they're so into it, and you learn so much, or they'll give you a lead on something that's just incredible. And it just makes it more fun when everybody gets involved. I was kind of disappointed because I was hoping your brother would be here too.
Yeah.
Jones and Donald Trump.
Well, Mike had to go on a special mission for Lindsey Graham. I had to
Oh,
go to the golf. No, he does Lindsey Graham too. I don't know if you've heard his impression. That's
uh-uh.
one of his latest ones that's people are really enjoying. No, actually, Mike is he's in a band. He plays drums in a band here in New Hampshire, and they're doing a band photo shoot tonight. So,
Nice. Very
um,
cool.
but yeah, we'll definitely want to get you on again. You can.
Oh, it's fine. I was having fun with you guys. And I immediately loved you guys. One, because you were so gracious to Maria, who absolutely deserves you know, the most gracious environment that she can ever have. And then too, because you guys were funny. I was so enjoying the show because it wasn't just, getting the information. It was also like lighthearted, and it's a very serious topic. And to be able to pull that off, sometimes it pisses people off, but you guys did. It was great.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's another reason why we do what we do. We have to bring some humor into this world and some more light into it. We need to laugh more. And yes, what Maria talks about is the heart of darkness. But she has a great sense of humor.
Yes.
And my brother and I, and you have this ability and this brilliance too. You're just able to talk to people. You can just talk to people and connect with them, and it doesn't just turn into like, oh, I'm reading a note card here. Here's my third question, my fourth question. What was that like for you? How did you overcome that challenge? You're like, no, I want to throw in like, I want to hear what it would sound like if Trump asked. So that was a disaster. That was a very low point in your life. So how did you rebound from that? Tell me about it. And I'll put it in my second edition release for 2024, Donald Trump, The Art of the Comeback. Okay. Because we're coming back, Carmen, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Believe me. Believe me. So what do you think about 24? Where are you on Trump? Are you a Trump fan? I mean, what are your thoughts on him? Is he real? Is he controlled? Is he a puppet? Where do you come down on the Donald?
I think he's too inner circle to not be inner circle. I don't know if that's an answer, but I will say that I was really disappointed at the end of his term, and I thought the warp speed thing blew my mind. Like, what?
He became a Pfizer
It
salesman.
didn't make any sense, and people were trying to excuse it and find every reason why he did it, and I don't know. I also though think that it was exciting to see him be able to rally that many people. And to me, when you can get that many people together, there's definitely something beautiful that's there in the essence of it.
There's an electricity for sure.
Yeah, and I think it is a commonality, and I think it is a love for the country, and I do think it's a love for your fellow man, and um, but I do think he's a wild card. I agree with Alex Jones. He calls him an idiot savant. And I think he is brilliant. But like, so for instance, like when he used that thug word, I have tons of black friends. I knew they wouldn't like it. I knew, and not all of them didn't, but I'm just saying it was really interesting to me, that choice of word. But I also think he just is who he is. I think he's not
Right.
ever going to placate. He's not ever going to not be something that he just is. And so
Yeah.
I admire that part of him, that it is what it is. He is who he is.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good assessment and take on Trump. And he certainly has supporters and detractors who are all across the spectrum. You have people who have the Trump derangement syndrome, who, the old trope, the guy could cure cancer and do do amazing things, and people would still hate him. They'd still
Yeah,
they'd still slag him for that. All the way to your blind MAGA, almost cultist, who believes that the guy could do nothing wrong and he can walk
right.
on water and he's a divine figure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I have more of a new, and because I'm known for my Donald Trump impression, and I've been all over the country, dressed as Trump and impersonating him,
it's
and
awesome. I love it. I love
thank
it.
you. Yeah, it's opened a lot of doors in my life. So it's hard for me to bite the hand that feeds. But on a lot of levels, I like a lot about Trump. I like you said, I like that he is what he is and who he is, and he really doesn't give a damn if that offends or
Right.
is rude or impolite. And he went into an arena with the most disgusting, corrupt, vile, nasty, degenerate people like the Clintons, like the Bushes,
Yep.
like the McCains, all these legacy establishment groups and mafias and families. And
Yep.
he went in there and he just shit all over them in front of the whole country. So I like that. When what he
Yeah.
did to the Clintons, and the fact that he stopped Hillary Clinton from being president. I mean, I will always appreciate that about
Right.
Donald Trump. And like he always reminded people, look, she's been running for president her whole life. She's been trying to do this for 40 years. She's been planning it. Okay. I ran my first time and I won. Okay. And he's entertaining. He's funny. I
And
kind
he's
of
absolutely, yeah, he
he's
captivates.
he's hilarious and he is very captivating. And he speaks in a way that is so digestible for everybody that they identify with it. And I went to 6 or 7 of his rallies here in New Hampshire. I met him a couple times. He saw me dressed as him and called me to the stage in front of 5,000 people,
I
which was
saw that. I saw that.
that
Well, I
was
didn't see that video, but I saw your talking about it. It's very cool.
yeah, it was that was amazing. So some really cool experiences up here with it. But yeah, to see a crowd of 10, 15,000 people um, just hanging on his every word it is very interesting, and it's electrifying, and it's a unique study on human psychology
Yeah.
and how crowds work.
I just think also what a difficult position it is if it's legitimate, who
Right.
knows who really runs the world. But there's so many people coming at you. There's so much controlled opposition. There's so much opposition. There's so much vitriol. There's so much joy. Like it's a pretty intense environment. Who do you trust? I would have a hard time figuring it out. I mean, even to Stannis, I believe in the law of correspondence big time. I think that, birds of a feather flock together. And I think you have to watch people's past and you have to watch who they hung out with and what they did. Doesn't mean people can't change because I have, but you just have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a hard time with pretty much all politicians and people running for office because they are liar. Yeah, they're liars and they're cons. And I think the thing with Trump, he's just so shameless. There's just he knows that he's a con artist. He knows that he's lying or he's bullshitting and making promises he couldn't possibly keep. But I don't know. People just want to go along with it, and um, one of the high points for me of his presidency, and that's why I have this pin here. This is from North Korea.
Wow.
So I absolutely loved Donald Trump going to the DMZ and shaking Rocket Man's hand and actually engaging in diplomacy. People can say he didn't accomplish anything. There was no treaty signed, this and that. Look, no bombs were dropped.
Right.
Okay. We didn't destroy a country. We didn't engage in a regime change, overthrow Rocket Man, and then occupy his country and kill millions of people and lose thousands of American lives. That didn't happen.
Totally
So
agree.
Trump, he did it in his style. He sends out a tweet. Hey, look, I'm going to be in Japan. I'm going to be in the neighborhood, Rocket Man. Maybe we get together and maybe we could have a cheeseburger and take a walk to remember along the DMZ. We could do a walk to remember. And he went over there, Carmen, and him and Rocket Man, they really did take a walk to remember, you know?
Yes, they did.
And this pin right here is my best friend Justin has been to North Korea 3 times
Wow.
because he believes in cultural exchange. He believes in peace. He believes in ignoring what our mainstream media and our governments tell us about other populations, that we need to hate them, consider them our enemies.
Amen.
And I believe Trump believes this too about that with the Koreans, that if we just sit down and we're in face to face and we're talking, we're not really enemies.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so,
I mean, Heineken even did a really cool, I think it was Heineken, I'm pretty sure it was. It was a while ago that I saw it, but it was this great deal where they had people working together and having a beer together, but then they afterwards told them their different like political views
oh,
or
yeah.
ideology or whatever, and they overcame it. Like it was, but had they presented it in reverse, that wouldn't have happened.
There would be no, you wouldn't even open the beer. You would have been like, screw you, I'm not sitting down with you.
It's great. It was
Yeah.
brilliant.
And that is brilliant. And that's how I approach life. I'm not really a religious guy. I don't go to church or any of that. But I think, people who are religious and who aren't religious, we need to see past that. Like, just like you said about, shedding that pretense and have conversations and realize that we have more in common, than we don't.
Yes.
And the predator class, they really like to punctuate those superficial differences and then feed off them and then profit off them and usurp even more power through fear and divide and conquer tactics. So
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, Satan's organized and he knows how to divide, and we fall for it over and over again. And that's what's so once the gig is up, which I like being on this side of it. It feels so good to be so free and to know it's not a war. It's a bunch of guys pretending there's a war. There might, I don't know what they're doing, how they do it, but I watched that movie Wag the Dog, and
Yes.
I've never seen it before, and I was like, oh my God. And not to mention that predictive programming is everywhere. We just have to see it. And if you look, everything in the world has been blue and yellow for, 18 months. And then all of a sudden, everybody's praying for Ukraine, right? And it's like, how do people not see the programming? And I get kind of a little charge out of, wow, I like, I know the game. Like I
Mm.
won the game in a
Yeah.
way, and what's
Right.
so cool is that's why, like I said earlier, I really like the Beef Initiative, and how my daughter and I really want to start digging into just our community, just our little town, find out who the people are that farm, find out the people that ranch, find out the people that, have water, find out the people that, are providing whatever it is, and then start drilling into who's on the PTAs, who's on the local stuff. What are the churches here? Are these legit churches, or do they have underground tunnels? Like, let's find out.
Yeah, and that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. That like church and groups like that are fronts a lot of times for criminal enterprise, for trafficking, for drugs, for weapons, just thuggery and criminality. So that's sometimes that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow.
It's the ultimate betrayal. It was funny because I'm friends with Madison Marquette, who has accused many of the bigger ones, and she was posting that she was so frustrated with people accusing another one of our friends for, you know, connecting with a known Satanist. And her whole point is, how else do we bring somebody into the light, or the goodness, or whatever it is that you believe, unless you interact with these people. You can't just go, you can't talk to a Satanist, you can't talk to a witch, you can't talk, so there's no conversions ever, and nobody can ever come back from the dark side or whatever it is. And I remember looking at it, and she's like, I'm gonna follow a Satanist too. Like, she's just making her point. And I was like, she has a point. And then people started attacking me and saying that's heresy. They're literally attacking me. And I'm just like, block, block, block. I keep it simple. I really do. I don't fight with anybody.
No.
I just, you know what, they can learn from someone else. They're just not gonna learn from me. But what was so interesting to me is, think about that. Like, it's kind of like if you're dating and you've got this really gorgeous guy and you like him, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I really like you. Like, yeah, let's go out or whatever. And he goes, well, I'm kind of in an open relationship, but I would like to go out with you too. Oh, he told the truth. He didn't waste my time. But then there's this other guy, and he acts like he's all buttoned up, and he doesn't have a girlfriend, and really he does. And you go out with him, and he wastes your time, and you find out later he's got a girlfriend. I think that the guy that lied is the bigger asshole. you
Yeah,
know, I might not agree with the guy that's in an open relationship, but at least I know what I'm dealing with.
he's honest about who and what he is.
Yes, and I think that what the other danger is that when somebody is working with somebody in a spiritual sense, that's where everything begins, because we begin creating in the ethers, and then we bring it down onto this earth. It doesn't matter if you believe in what ABC religion, but that is how the world operates. You think, you have to create in your mind, and then you bring it down. Anything that you look at, it existed before. And so for somebody to get into your head spiritually and begin programming you is very evil, if they're doing it without a pure heart.
Yeah, well, if they want to use you as a pawn for something, like MK Ultra, or
Yeah.
to do criminality, or their bidding. And I mean, we have that going on in a lot of ways, from our media and from Hollywood and the news, and the the brainwashing. I mean, like you said, I've won the game. I see the game. I feel that way so many times when I see a grown man wearing the jersey of like a 20-year-old athlete. Like, dude, do you think? And he just paid $300 to a ticket to this game that's a child's game, and he spent $200 on cheap Bud Light and crappy food, and he really believes in it and thinks that this is a real thing, and that it's important and it has value. And I step back and look. I enjoy sports like the next guy. It's entertainment, it's fun, but for a lot of people, and they're conscious that where they're at with their consciousness, they just can't step back and look at it that way and think about it. Um, what they're doing. So I don't know. I feel a lot of people are just like asleep at the wheel.
For sure. Well, I just know. I didn't know. I look at even, like the Travis Scott concert, and when you start talking to the people out of satanic ritual abuse, you start realizing that that just isn't a concert. There's something going on underground at the same time. It's a ritual, and they're taking that loosh. They're pulling from that vibe. They're taking that power and using it. Same thing with sports. There's stuff going on underground while there's stuff going on above ground, and they're taking advantage of and using people's spirit. It's a spirit, team spirit. It's a
Teams,
thing.
right? Be true to your school. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. With sports, there is so much criminality that goes on, and underhandedness and shadiness and darkness around sports and the owners and what they do in their business dealings and the underhandedness. And just, yeah, your average person, they just can't connect those two things, whether they want to call it Satanism or just evil. Just the fact that evil does exist and it manifests itself
Yes.
um, in so many ways. So what I see happening with this drumbeat for war, to with Russia, what's happening with Ukraine, it's just that's being done by evil people. That's evil. You're basically at when you strip away all the bullshit and all the rhetoric, you
Yes.
want America and Russia to go to war with each other. You want us to hate Russia, and you want Americans to go die in another foreign land, mask it in some virtuous holy crusade, when in
Yep.
reality it's just the same evil entities pushing for a war, and humans are just thrown into the meat grinder, and it's a for profit evil enterprise.
Bing, 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 bing. Yes. Yes. And when you begin working with people, like I do, who help people who have been programmed to get out, you start learning about this term called iniquity force. And iniquity force is that exact bloodshed that comes from war that gets credited to somebody who was the evil one that did it. So, for instance, Hitler would have an incredible iniquity force, right? So, if you look at black magic, that's something they can use. It's blood magic.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's where, some people are like going, "Oh, I'm out,"
oh,
like David Icke thing, like, okay, these people have gone way too weird for me.
no, well, yeah, well, look, for your average person that just watches reality TV, watches sports, eats the shitty food, drinks the uh, the cheap beer. Yeah,
Yeah,
you might sound crazy to them, but to people who have done a little bit of homework and done some research,
yeah,
I just try. I start with just telling people about the Franklin cover up over in Nebraska that happened in the 80s with
yes,
Franklin Savings and Loans, and I just try to make it bite size and tell them what that was all about, and say that was a real you know, case of the criminal predator class, the wealthy and the powerful, trafficking children all across the country, and into DC and Embassy Row, into um, these parties where they would gather, and
yeah,
yeah, and people they're like, no way. And then you just point them in a direction to a couple of books about Franklin, and you tell them about Conspiracy of Silence, the documentary that this film crew made, and the Discovery Channel was going to air it, and then they nixed it last minute because of what was in it, how explosive it was. And that's like a place to start with it. And then if you can show someone that pulls the curtain back a little bit more, and they're like, okay, so these are people who were involved in this, who were part of media, part of banking, who were part of local government, um, who were in schools, Boys Town, the church out there, and everything. So, okay, so now that gives someone that empowers a person to kind of start thinking more critically about people who are perceived as virtuous and powerful, and these authority figures that we have to respect and adhere to what they say. So, I think that's a good place to start with people, so-called red pilling.
Totally agree. But what does it come down to is some people just can't handle it. It's so much. It's so scary. But really, once you understand who you are and the chances of you being here on earth, just being born is a miracle, and whether you believe in God or divine intelligence or, consciousness or whatever, it's a force and it's real. And it actually works for you the way gravity does. It's predictable. And so once you understand that, you have nothing to be afraid of. But people don't have faith in their world, and so until they have faith in the world that they live in and what they surround themselves with, they have a hard time hearing it because they don't know how to operate in that new expanded
Yeah.
reality. Yeah,
Yeah, very, very well said. It is really scary. It is really scary, especially if you don't have any kind of foundation. Again, harkening back to now when I was young, I had such an amazing foundation to handle this information and
you did.
process it and deal with it. And I think it's what put my brother and I down a path of like doing impersonations and comedy and performing for people and that sort of stuff, because that's kind of how I deal with it. I mean, it's you have to make light of it and process it somehow and try and put it out there in a way that people can digest it and not it's not don't fire hose it onto people.
Yeah.
And I really think also with the Epstein thing, that was a massive red pill for a lot of average people, because
Oh,
I've been talking about that shit for probably close to 10 years, and I would tell people, there's a guy, he has a jet. Bill Clinton's been on this jet. He has a private island. He traffics children all over the country and all over the world. He brings children to this private island with Bill Clinton, and it'd be like, you are so full of shit. What conspiracy theory bullshit are you reading? I'm like, I'm not reading conspiracy theory bullshit. I'm doing hours and hours of research. And,
yes.
people will disrespect your intelligence and they'll disrespect the effort. But I can't tell you, Carmen, how many private messages I got when that Epstein thing broke and it finally
Oh,
broke through to critical mass.
whoa.
And people were like, Eric, I'm sorry the way I treated you years ago. I called you crazy. I thought you were full of it, but you were right about that Epstein stuff, and it's even worse than I understood. So
Yeah.
it's nice when you hear that.
It is. It's such a good validator. And I'm always getting on people on Twitter. Apologize to somebody because I'm sure there's somebody that you said this is bullshit and it's not. So, go handle your business. You don't want that karma back.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if I'm wrong about something or I get something wrong, I'm going to come right out and admit it. I'm going to apologize, and if someone brings me information that disproves it, or I'm corrected, I will stand corrected, and I'll be totally open and honest about that. You have to be intellectually honest about things.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to be wrong. I mean, that's just, you just misinterpreted based on the data that you had at the time. It's
Right.
it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it really is one of the things that I loved. I don't know, do you ever watch Sean Atwood? He has
I I'm
stuff on. You
I'm
do?
privileged. I had Sean Atwood on my once a month show that I do called The Four Horsemen with
Yeah.
Reed Coverdale and Ryan Dawson,
Yes.
and I
I
love
love
Sean.
that show, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, when I had Sean on, I did my impression for him. I went, "Oh, Sean Atwood here at the top of the hour. We're going to be joined by Mr. Ryan Dawson. We're going to be talking about the Palestinian children in the Gaza." Oh, and he got the biggest kick out of it. And
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
yeah, and you talked about manifesting, Carmen, and things starting in the ether. I am doing that with a trip to England right now.
Yes.
I'm
Good.
I'm I'm thinking about it before I go to bed at night. I'm waking up. I'm looking at prices of plane tickets. I'm working on locating my passport to get it renewed, because I want to get on a plane and I want to fly over to England and I want to have pints with Sean Atwood and David Icke.
Awesome. I wanna do that. I wanna go with you.
Yeah.
But one of the things that that he had on his show that I think he's had to take all of his down that had to do with Epstein, but he had a pilot that was talking about why did Epstein have this type of plane that was totally out of date and all this stuff, and it was the only plane that had like this staircase thing that would go down in the middle of the flight or something where it could literally eject things, whether it be drugs, people, or whatever. And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, it's so fun to get different people together. That's that what I call the body of Christ. But just the unity and each person bringing their tidbits of information that are so powerful. Because if you're not a pilot and you don't know planes, you wouldn't understand that.
Right, or have that knowledge. Yeah, I call that the cosmic debris.
Yeah.
um, when people can come together and certain vibrations link up and sync up. The only one. Yeah, there could be many explanations for it, but Atwood is awesome. Atwood does really great work, and he's had my friend Ryan Dawson on. He's one of the few really big channels that has the balls to still have Ryan Dawson on, and you
Well,
know,
I'll tell you, it's crazy. I really had never heard of him before you. I was watching The Four Horsemen and I loved him. He's so amazing, and it's horrible what they're doing to him and how they've taken away his PayPal, everything. Like, how does somebody function? It's nuts.
it's been tough. Ryan's a warrior. I mean, he's part Native American, so he's carrying
Nice.
that spirit, that strength, that
Yeah.
that wisdom, that knowledge. Um, no, I mean, Ryan is probably one of the most, if not the most, banned independent media creators like ever of all time. He's been kicked off everything, and yeah, he's controversial. Yeah, he can be rough around the edges, but after doing my show with him for a year, I finally got to meet him in person in Washington D.C. last month with Reed. Ryan flew over from Japan, Reed flew in from Utah, and I flew down from New Hampshire, and we convened together at the National Press Club for a great conference related to Israel and Palestine that Roger Waters from Pink Floyd was at.
That is so cool. And so where did you say Ryan was from?
So originally he's from Hatteras Island in North Carolina,
Oh, okay.
and but now he moved out of the states years ago, and he lives in Japan with his wife and kids.
How cool is that?
Yeah,
How
yep.
cool is that?
So
I
he's
think that we have so much to learn from the Japanese. The fact that they don't steal is just awesome. Like, it's incredible to me. My nephews went and they stayed in those, like, tiny little capsule hotels where you just, like,
yes,
open the drawer and you kinda lay in there and it's got a TV and then you close the drawer. Well, there's no place for luggage, right? So they were saying, "Oh, where do we put our luggage?" And they're like, "Oh, right here in the luggage room with everyone else's." And they're like, "Well, is that safe?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, no one will touch it."
right.
Can you imagine? And I'm that way. If something accidentally ends up in my basket that I can tell, like, it wasn't, paid for, or the kids walked out with something, I walk back, I return it, I do whatever. I literally could not live with it, even if it was
Mm,
a $2 chopstick. There's no way. What would it be like if everyone in the US was like that?
yeah, I think
Magical.
there are more of us who are like that. I think there are. I think majority of people are good in that sense. But culturally, you're talking like maybe culturally here and just kind of societal parameter.
Yep.
Yeah, Ryan did say they really have their act together over there in Japan in many regards, and they're very respectful of their elderly population,
Yeah,
which
it's
a lot of pockets in the U.S. are, but also you do see elderly being abused here in America and mistreated and forgotten and overlooked. When I meet somebody and I find out that they're in their 80s or 90s, I have a historical mind. I think about historical events and I think about where they lived in the world during that time. I am just so excited to talk to that person, hear their story, hear their thoughts on things today and connect it to the past, look for patterns that they might see. I just think that there's so much wisdom and knowledge and love we can get from the elderly in our country, in the world.
not to mention just love. Like,
Yeah.
they just have been beaten up enough to just most of them. Some of them are crotchety, but most of them are, they just wanna do a puzzle with you or hang out, or you know what I mean? They're satisfied with boring, which I really would like to bring boring back.
Wow, no, normal. How about just? I mean, yeah. So, for example, I have a living great aunt. She was born in 1928 up in Newfoundland, Canada, and she lives up in Lewiston, Maine. And my brother and I went and visited her last fall and
That's
spent a
all.
whole day with her. her roommate, who's she's young, she's only 79, and then her other friend from church, and she's very deeply Catholic. She has pictures and paintings and effigies and crosses of Jesus all over her house, and um, she's just a real throwback. And when she saw my brother and I walk through that door, and we spent 5 6 hours with her and had dinner, like I just can't even tell you what that meant to
Oh,
me to
it's probably
see.
like having famous people come. She was probably so excited.
She was, and to me, she's a living gateway to the past and to my family. She's my grandfather's younger sister, and just the stories that she has, and she her memory is fading. She's 94, just turned 94 last month. So, but I appreciate that. I appreciate being able to talk to the elderly and spend time with them, and we can learn a lot from them. So I do very much respect it about Japanese culture, and a lot of pockets of American society who place a lot of emphasis on taking
Yeah.
care of the elderly.
I like how you defended our fellow man too. Good job. You're like, we're not so bad. There's a lot of good ones. And it's true, there are. There's a lot of good ones. They just need to get their courage up a little bit. Get that
Yeah,
courage up. Get that I'm too afraid to face the reality level back. And then
yeah.
we'll be strong again.
We do, Carmen. We need strength and we need tough. Okay. I look over at Jeb Bush. I see weak. Okay. I see low energy and I see weak. All right. America needs tough and we need strong and we need it quick. Okay. We need it quick.
We do need it
We need
quick.
it quick, Carmen. And got a couple comments here. Anita says Addie Ads was there. Yes, I did meet Addie Ads in DC.
I love him.
He is awesome. Wow, with the coverage he did of the Maxwell trial, getting in the face of Maxwell's demon siblings, just the guts on that guy. He's doing what the mainstream media, what they're supposed to be doing. He's the real media.
Oh, for sure.
He's the real media. So yeah, we met
He's
him.
another one that I didn't know about because until Maria Farmer, and really that's how I found Sean Atwood was Maria Farmer, and so it's really cool how certain people have brought us together.
It's a vibration that we're on. We're on a wave, and,
Absolutely.
and, and it's amazing, and I love it. It's connected me with so many beautiful souls, and just people who are fearless, and there's a real freedom in that fearlessness, and not being afraid of what people think about you or what
There's
they might,
complete freedom.
yeah, what they might call you or might say behind your back. It's like, you know what, I actually feel bad for you. You will never really do anything interesting in this life, and you'll just be jealous and full of piss and vinegar for your days, and that's too bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I do. I know exactly what you're saying. I have a question for you. I love asking people this. So, not how old are you, but how old do you, at a soul level, feel?
Wow, that is a great question. um oh, probably at least 300 years old. I would so
You're an ancient one.
that would put us back.
That's the oldest anyone's ever told me.
No. So yeah, do you just mean in like
Just your spirit.
essence and how you feel about things and other people, and yeah, I mean, I was born in '86. I'm 35, but really, I don't know. I feel connected to probably mostly connected to like the Kennedy Cold War days, when him and his brother brought us off the brink of nuclear exchange with the Soviet Union. So maybe I'm probably an 80-year-old man.
Okay. I love
Anywhere, Carmen, between 80 and 300.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, I'm like 19, and so the maturity level's not quite there yet. That's about where I am. That's
Oh,
just that's just
oh,
the way.
yeah,
I
you're
love asking people because I get all kinds of different answers, and no one ever says their own age. Every time it's something different, and so
really.
I start asking that on my show. I
I,
always do it just at parties.
yeah. Well, how old do you feel? You said you feel
19.
you
For
feel
real, I
night.
feel like I'm 19 years old.
You feel like you're 19. So you have that wonderment, excitement. You're not jaded and cynical and beaten down, and
Love,
we're not
feeling.
world weary.
Nope, Love
You're
to hang out with people.
you're
Love
world excited, Carmen. You're not world weary. You're world excited, and I am too. I am the most world excited. Okay, there's so much world to explore out there. So many people to meet. So many things to do. It's unbelievable. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah, I like that's a good. Yeah. So how does that go over at parties? You're just kind of there, maybe
Everyone
sipping
loves it.
something.
And they always have their reasons, you know. This is why I feel like one of the funniest ones ever was one of my young guys from jail because, you know, I had my charity where I helped guys out of jail, and they were out of a youth prison. And one of them, when I was like, "Well, how old do you feel?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm at least 100." He's like, "I've been through everything, you know." And he just listed off all the hell that he'd been through and how most people don't go through that much hell. And then it
Wow.
was so funny. And then at the end of it, he's like, "Well, maybe I'm not 100." But it's so fun. I just turned on the chats and I see people are like, "I'm holding strong at 39. I'm 17."
Yeah, we'll look at some of these. Yeah,
I think
fire
it's so funny.
fire pixie. Good to see you. Says 17. My girl Shannon Lee, she's holding strong at 39. She's my fellow enthusiast of the band The Mavericks, one of my favorite bands.
Oh, nice.
Let's see, the more
300.
non is 300. So you're there with me at three, holding strong at 300.
That's
Um,
awesome.
that's
I
funny.
I love it. There's another question, but it's not coming to me. I haven't been to a party in a while, I guess. What was the other one I used to ask people and they loved it? But I just feel like it's funny because I was recently on my sister's boat, and had I been even 10 years ago, I probably would have done a backflip off the front of the boat or whatever. But like inside, I want to do it so bad. But then I'm like, oh, if I get hurt, like this is not the same rehab it would have been 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I do. I have a joke with my brother. I'll wake up some mornings and I'll just go, "Oh, I'm 40. I'm 40." And then if it's a day after the gym with my trainer Megan, I'll be like, "Oh, Mike, I'm 50. I'm 50," which is 15 years away from me. And I said that to my friend at dinner the other night, my classmate I've known since fourth grade. And he's like, "Geez, man, when you put it that way, we are 15 years from 50."
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that's a blessing. I mean, every I'm so happy for every day, every hour I get here on Earth. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's not going to always be perfect and fun, but it's I don't know. I just feel happy and lucky to be here in this body and be aware and awake and
Me
conscious. And
too. Me
it's
too. You're
it's
just
it's
brave. You're a brave man. And I'm hoping that we get more brave men
well, thank you.
and
Yeah,
women
just
and
yeah,
women.
yeah. Brave people, brave brave people. We need brave porcupines. We need brave goats. We need brave bats. Not the bat at the Wuhan bat mart there, the wet bar there in Wuhan. We don't want that. We don't want that.
Oh my gosh.
But we
Do you
need
ever
we
do stand up?
Yeah, so I did regular stand up for a while, but what really I had the most success with was Trump. So I've done stand up shows as Donald Trump, which is
Oh,
just
that's
like
brilliant.
you can say anything. You can literally get away with anything. You can make fun of anybody um,
Yeah. That's so smart.
because
Nobody's
you
gonna be mad at you because
yeah
you're being him.
yeah
It's
be mad
brilliant.
at Donald Trump. There's not really an actualized person beneath this character who's trying to say something and make you aware and educate you. No, that's not happening.
That's awesome. That's my daughter. Like, I think she's so brave because so she grew up acting, but right before COVID, I would say maybe 18 months before COVID started, she's like, "You know what? I'm just gonna start going to open mics." And she started doing it and I loved it. It was so much fun to go. I kind of got addicted to just going to comedy clubs, you know. It was something that was just really fun to do with my friends, and we would all
Yeah,
have a great time. Even if the comedian was really bad, we would all laugh about it later, you know, like, "Oh my
yeah.
god, that hit flat, like, I felt so sorry for him," you know, whatever. But I think if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah, if you can get up on a hot mic in front of a room full of strangers and get real laughs, I mean,
Anything's easier.
you can do anything, really.
Anything.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, and even people who bomb. I mean, I've had nights where I've just slayed. It was just 45 minutes to an hour of gut howling from the gut, laughing like tears in eyes to bomb, just like worst. I mean, I've had it all. I've done great shows where I felt amazing, and then I had done shows where I knew instantly,
Oh,
you stink tonight, Eric. It's not happening. but what the difference is, Carmen, between a loser and a winner is if you dust yourself up and you get back up and you go back out there again. Okay, and I'm going to come back in 24 like you wouldn't believe. I am. I mean, I draw a lot of inspiration and strength from Donald Trump. You know, he's like a late night stand up host. He's like a takedown comedian. I don't know. He keeps getting up there. He just doesn't give a shit what happens to him and
So
what
many
they.
great qualities, so many
Yeah,
great qualities,
he
and he is brilliant. Let's face it. I mean, the guy is
Trump is
very,
not stupid. This
very
whole thing where like people who attack him who say, "Oh, he's stupid," and he's stupid on some things. He's stupid about some things, but Trump's not an idiot.
right.
And if I can have any influence if he runs again over the people he puts around him, because he's always like, "I have the best people. I'm going to hire the best people," and then he hires that maniac John Bolton. It's like, dude, what the hell? So I want to, if he runs again, I want to try and have some influence about people who are around him to, listen to this person or consider consider what this person's saying. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too optimistic.
Oh, do not stop, please. We need you.
We do, yeah. It can be hard to be optimistic at a lot, especially. But I don't know. You can't stop being optimistic. You have to still be hopeful about things.
Absolutely. I think that deep down inside, if you ask yourself if it's really true, whenever it's super evil, it really doesn't have the power that we think it does. We give it more power than it has, a lot of times. And
Yeah,
so, if everyone would learn all of the conspiracies, we would be fine.
yeah.
The jig is up.
it, the jig is up and we would realize they don't have any power over us. And you mentioned earlier, stand in your power. And we try to do that here. Carmen, you certainly do it. So we're coming past an hour. If you want to tell everybody, Carmen, where to find you and how to support you, um, you know, go for it.
So yeah, on my website, it's carmenstuder.com. And really, I don't have a Patreon, or I'm not collecting any money. I do coaching though, and I work with people from all walks of life. I've got professional athletes. I even have a billionaire. I have all kinds of different people. I work with families. I work with kids, but with the parent. And really, it's more just working on people's spirits and lifting them vibrationally, lifting their spirit, teaching them to connect to their core. And that's my first love. That's what I love doing.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that definitely comes through in your show. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that. So, yeah, folks, check Carmen out. I've been wanting to have her on for a while, and we finally locked down today. And we'll definitely want to have you on again. And like I said, if Carlisle wants to come on in the future, we'll definitely, if we can. She sounds like a busy lady. She sounds busy. If we can, do you guys live near each other, or are you
Yeah,
different?
she moved back from LA when COVID happened. So she and I share a house.
Oh,
And
nice.
I
And
love it.
you're in the
Right now,
Dallas,
she has
Texas
the
area.
best in town. Pardon?
You're in the Dallas, Texas area.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, because a Texas trip is definitely in my cards
Yeah.
soon as well. Because my best friend, who is the producer of my podcast, he was here in New Hampshire. He just moved back to Texas with his wife and two children. They're in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I forget exactly what town they're in, but
Yeah.
I visited them in 2019, and we went to Dealey Plaza, did the whole thing, and I really like Texas. I like it down there a lot.
Love
So
it. I love it. The people are so nice here.
people were nice. I saw the biggest American flag I've ever seen in my life, Carmen. I was on my way to a Whataburger. I wanted to get Whataburger because I just went to Boot Barn and bought some beautiful boots. I was going to get my Whataburger, and then I saw Old Glory. It was like a 10-story flag. It was unbelievable. My heart swelled with so much pride. But yeah, I know a lot of people in Texas now. I know you. I got my friend Ricky. I got Alex Stein. He's in Dallas.
I just
Um,
reached out to him yesterday to see if he would come on. He said he would. We
oh,
haven't nailed anything down. And then I found out from one of my friends, she knows his dad, and I'm just like, it's such a small world.
that's the cosmic debris. That's what ends up happening. when you're on a certain wave or a certain vibration, we
Yeah.
all come together and run into each other. So yeah, I know a lot of people in Texas now. So if we got Alex Jones down there, obviously Carmen will go down there. We'll get some barbecue. We'll talk about how Hillary Clinton is a demon. She's a liberal demon with sulfur coming out of her nose, folks. I got the documents on this, Infowars.com. We got Carmen Studer at the top of the hour at
You're
Infowars.
so good. You
She's
need to come
joining
on
us.
my channel next.
What's that?
I said you need to come on my channel next.
Oh, I would love to. I'd be honored to come on. But
Good.
hey, I really appreciate your time today, Carmen. Thanks for talking to me and
Thank
coming
you.
on Jackman Radio. And everybody, I shared all of Carmen's links down
Thank
there, so
you.
check her stuff out. She slays on Twitter. She tells the truth. She keeps it real. She's
Thank
Carmen.
you.
She's becoming one of my favorite people. So. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Jackman Radio. And please, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to Carmen's channel.
Yes.
I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Jackman Radio. Just ask for $5 a month if you want to support our channel. I also have Venmo. It's down there in the description. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.